Okay, now let's look at the reports that Solver generated for our basic computer and XP computer model. We solved using Solver. The optimum solution is produce 560 of basic, 1200 of XP, and that will give us a profit of $199,600. So let's change the format here to currency. Okay. So let's start with answer report. Okay. So answer report at the top gives you some meta information. Okay. What is the engine that was used? Simplex LP. How long did it take? And then what are the solver options that we selected? Okay. See this integer tolerance of 1%. Okay. Assume non-negative. All right. So here is the objective function. The objective cell is C23 and that is supposed to be maximized. So that's net profit hours used, that comes from net profit, and it takes this label and applies it to net profit. So that's why you get this funny name, net profit hours used. So the original value was 0 and the final value is 199,600. So that's good. Now the variable cells, so these are the decision variables. So it again takes number to produce and attaches to that label. So you get number to produce basic, number to produce XP. Original value is 0, final value is 560, 1200, and these are not integer, so these are continuous. Okay. Then at the bottom you have the 4 constraints. Remember, we have the 2 sales constraints and then the 2 hours constraint. So we have the assembly labor hours used, testing labor hours used. So it takes assembly labor, testing labor, and attaches hours used to it. Okay, and then the cell value. Okay, and the formula. Okay, so the cell value is how much? What are the cell values? 10,000 and 2960. Okay, and what is the formula? That is the constraint formula for these cells. And again, number to produce basic, number to produce XP. Okay, and the cell values are 560 and 1200. Yeah, and the formula, which is the constraint itself. Okay, so that's that. Okay, now there are a couple of additional pieces of information the answer report gives, and that is, the first one is status of the constraint. A constraint can be binding or not binding. Binding means the left hand side and the right hand side are equal. Like here, the constraint is C20 less than or equal to E20, right? C20 less than or equal to E20. Now this constraint is satisfied at the bound. Okay, it's exactly equal to the 10,000. So the constraint is at the bound. So that's why it is called binding. And the next constraint is not at the bound. It is satisfying the next constraint with a little bit of margin left. Okay, that is what is called slack. It is not, okay, there is a slack of 40 units. Okay, so that's why it is called not binding. So slack is the difference between the bound and the actual value. Okay, if there is no difference between the bound and the actual value, then the constraint is binding, there is no slack. If there is a gap, then it is not binding and the gap is the slack. Same here, 560 is not at the bound, so this constraint is not binding. Now this one is at the bound, so it is binding. So not binding and binding. So that's our answer report.